Hey everybody, and welcome to the Jersey Comic Group. We're bringing the news and reviews of your favorite comics, movies, TV shows, and yes, sometimes video games. Today's episode, this week's episode of the Jersey Comic Group, we're talking about EA's play of 2020. So EA's conference, we talk about all the new games coming out for 2020, our review of the conference. It's going to be a lot of fun. As always, I'm Rob Moran, and with me is
Chris Heller.
So, Chris, I want to jump right into it.
Rob.
We did the PlayStation last week, right? We talked about PlayStation. We lost our minds. Editor Mikey was like, I thought you guys were taking equal time on games. And I was like, whoever told you that? He's like, you spent like half the show talking about Spider-Man. I'm like, oh, of course.
Yeah. Why not?
Exactly. So, before
I'll do it again too, Mikey.
I mean, we are. So, guys, if you're thinking it's time we're going to spend on Star Wars, we're saving that for the end of the podcast. And if you're watching this on YouTube, it's going to be its own separate video where we just go deep dive into the Star Wars game, give our thoughts in this. First part's going to be a review of the new games coming out and the conference as a whole.
Yep.
So, Chris, the first game I want to touch upon that EA announced is a remastered collection of a very old game, Command & Conquer.
Yes.
I personally have never experienced Command & Conquer, but I know that there has been fan outcry for the game to be remastered. There's still players who wants to play it. Yep. And I thought it was a nice little warm-up into the EA conference, if you will, showing, hey, we get to do something for the fans, you know?
Yeah, it's your classic, scrollable tank game. It's one of the first, it's one of the big ones that gained quite a lot of popularity. And it's surprising it's still so popular in, 2020 going into 2021 slate of games when it's kind of like one of those simple scroll games that you're finding tanks. It's been remade a billion times, up to the point where you could get stuff like that on your phone now. Mm-hmm. But that original, they must be adding, some more stuff they didn't talk about. Maybe cross-platforming, maybe allowed on Steam, whatever the case, because. Right which there. We know that was kind of the whole conference.
Yeah, I was about to say, if you had to sum up EA Play 2020 in one sentence, is Star Wars game and cross-play and Steam for everything else.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all we have, folks.
Whatever's not on something, we're putting it on Switch,
which isn't
or
a bad
putting
thing.
It on Steam.
It's not a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing.
People want cross-play, so it's good that we're getting that.
Yeah, 100%.
But
and Steam, I'm kind of a little late to the game.
Yeah.
A little late to the game for Steam, but crossplay is one thing we definitely want more of. But yeah, awesome tank game. Mm-hmm. That's really all I got. Command & Conquer.
Moving on, they announced a couple more new IPs. The first one that I want to touch a little bit more focus on is It Takes Two. It's a co-op adventure platforming game. Mm-hmm. And it really follows the emotions of the girl. Parents are separating. And she creates little dollies, one representing her mom, one representing her dad. And you play as the dollies, and you interact. Your emotions are going to play a big part in the game's mechanics, and you're going to go out through the story. This speaks volumes to me, because I like a lot of indie games. I think they're fun and unique. They don't get enough attention that they deserve. And this kind of one that's especially heavy focus on emotions for this emotional guy right over here. That sounds like right up my alley. So, what did you think of this game, man? Is this something you might pick up?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it's one of those games that's almost too close to home, where it's I like feeling stuff in games, but this might be a little heavy for certain people.
I might need therapy after this.
Yeah, right? I might need some help after this one.
What if that's the twist? The whole time the therapist made her make the dollies and act out the family scene so she could cope with it. Oh, that's messed up. I don't know if I want now.
Who knows? But it's an interesting concept, right? It's basically a single player campaign you have to do as a co-op campaign. Yeah. It's the second time they've done a game like this with the same director and kind of team that EA's been using. They did one last year where it's you had to break out of jail, and it was two brothers had to,
which was good.
Almost like a jailbreak scenario. Yeah. And now they're making it way more like home, emotional, younger too. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be an interesting game platform. I'm interested to see how much, their marketing style for it is, because the last one I don't think got a lot of,
traction.
Play and marketing and traction. So it'll be interesting to see how much they're really putting into this compared to oh, hey, here's the next Madden.
So this one kind of seems like it hits a broader audience, right? It can get that older generation and it can get the younger crowd into it. and that co-op style is always appealing, especially for people with families like me and my younger brother. When what was that? It was with the Max Undead 2 or something like that. Army of 2 came
Army
out.
of Two?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're both like, oh, that's us, 2 of us, boom. So I can see that little people playing this game like, oh, just 2 of us, we can play as these people.
Yeah.
I have hope for the game. I have hope for every indie game because, we just need to keep making these games. Otherwise, all we're going to get is FIFA and Call of Duty for 30 years. Right?
For every year until we die. Or until they beat us over the face with it every year.
Moving on to another childlike game, original IP from EA, we have Lost in Random. Now, this is it's a game still in development. It's not ready for release yet as compared to some of the other ones. But it's very Tim Burton-esque when you look at it, right? You follow this girl in this land of randomness. She finds a little dicey companion, and then she could change fate. She could roll the dice and change fate, and then everything, plays off the idea of being fair and being risk-taking. And you're kind of playing as this little girl, and you have to decide whether it's good to take the risk or go with the flow. The visuals, I like it. I think me and Chris are both big fans of Tim Burton and his style, so that's going to play right up to us. And I love the idea of random and chance. So this looks like another pretty cool indie game from them. I got to say, so far I'm impressed.
Yeah, this one was definitely my favorite as far as the new IPs that were shown. Like you said, the Tim Burton-esque, Nightmare Before Christmassy style of it looked amazing. I love that kind of, that also like the feel, right? Like that Tim Burton-esque feel, the really wide eyes, the kind of claymation faces, the weird objects that become lifelike, like the die, and he's got like arms and legs and stuff. So yeah, I'm very, like, it's piqued my interest definitely. As a game that is extremely different and also, very familiar in the way it looks.
Yes.
So it kind of piques the interest of like, oh, it hits a little nostalgia, but it's also brand new and different. I can't see them not getting a handful of people that will be willing to try it and take a chance on that game just because of the look and feel of it too.
Yeah, that's the whole thing with these indie games. And the reason they do these conferences, I've seen comments and people talking about, oh, this EA conference is something that could have been done in an email, right? Why did we have a whole conference? It's because these new IPs, these people spent years and countless amount of hours into it, and they just want people to take a chance in their game. And
you also can't see you can't see a trailer and talk about the game like you do in an email. So
exactly, right?
That's just stupid. that person's stupid.
Next, the final new IP that EA has released is Rocket Arena, which is coming out very soon. It's coming out July 14th.
Yeah.
And then their first season starts July 28th. This is like their mix and mashup of, like, to me, like Super Smash Brothers and Fortnite, like this multiplayer arena. It's 3v3. Everybody has rockets and different rocket abilities and dodges, and you just gotta kill each other, knock each other out of the arena. It seems like a lot of fun. I don't know how well this game is going to go and grow.
We never know.
Especially with its competition of, you do have Fortnite, you do have Warzone, you do have EA's version of that, which is Apex Legends, right? Which is doing very well right now.
Yeah.
So this is like, I guess, their cartoony side of the Battle Royale. Or it's not even Battle Royale, this 3v3 elims. It looks fun and interesting. I'm just not sure if it's going to have legs to stand on, Chris.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, I think every game now that comes out like this has to ask itself, as well as everyone else is going to ask it, like, can it take Fortnite down? Like, is it good enough to take down a Fortnite,
take
or
a
good
piece
enough
of the
to
pie? That's all they have to do. They can't take it down.
Yeah, like, is it big enough now? Is it good enough to compete with Fortnite? Or to me, it seemed more like almost like the craziness of Rocket League, with Fortnite. Any of your big time battle royale games, not Apex, it's so different. But yeah, same as you. It's one of those things where it's like, we'll see if it can stand up. It comes out in July, so again, they better push it and throw it out there.
Yeah, this is the first time hearing about it, and for a game that's coming out next month, it's a little shocking, especially since we have such a low news traffic, and I mean, it might be just because we're not looking for it. It could be that it was announced before, but not
maybe because our game demographic's different, so it's not in our radar. But yeah, again, if you're gonna throw a game like that out there, and the concept's cool, right? Like it's all rockets.
Oh yeah.
There's no real guns. It's way more cartoony, way more kid friendly.
That makes it easier to shoot. So like people like
exactly.
me, it's great.
Yeah. Just get to an area, just blow it to hell.
I want to be the big fat pirate guy. That's where I want to be.
I saw that guy. I was like, oh, that's a Rob character.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, let's be the fat pirate man.
Who's gonna be impossible to kill?
I hope so.
Like, that guy's gonna be impossible to kill. He's a tank.
You gotta make the fat people strong, guys. You gotta give it to them.
And agile. He's gonna like spit out of the way or something ridiculous.
That'd be dope.
So yeah, like it looks fun as hell. It looks like, a nice way to get away from some stuff and a great like almost like escapism game where I can just go here and play and have fun. I don't have to think about a story-driven game. I don't have to think about a puzzle game. It seems like it's going to be
a shorter game. Like, you could play a match or two real quick and then go on to, like, something else throughout the day. We do know that they're going to release a new character later in July. We also know that there's going to be a battle pass, so you can get different cosmetics. You can level each character up to level 100, which is pretty cool. So that way it keeps you involved in unlocking new gear or new looks for them. And then most importantly, I guess, for this game specifically, it's cross-platform. Right? No matter what platform you play, you'll be able to jump on and do it. I see this game being very big on Switch.
I'm thinking the same.
I think a lot of younger kids are going to be able to jump on this and shoot each other if they're not already playing Fortnite. If they want something different, you have this, and especially quicker rounds. Sometimes Fortnite could take a while. And like you said, like this is kind of the start of the super push for crossplay and Steam and making EA games are accessible for everybody to play with everyone.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think this, looking at it, it looks like a Switch hit, right? It looks like something the Switch is going to kind of
run with,
like,
and they should
go with. Yeah, especially with everyone was so focused on the big two, and Switch sometimes gets with those third party games gets fallen down. But yeah, no, I agree. I think I can't dispute anything you're saying, right? Like it's clear what it is. It's a clear game. It's a clear game. We know what it is. We know its demographic. And yeah, at this point, the question is, all right, how is it going to compete with the big hitters like Fortnite?
Yeah.
And even its own company, right, with Apex Legends. In the older demographic, like how's that older demographic going to sit there and go, I'd rather play the new season of Apex, and this is kind of just like the kids game, So it's going to have to be able to pull from both sides, kind of, to compete. So we'll see.
So now EA's conference shifted from its new IP, kind of focused on the updates on current IP, and then towards the end, like their future, what's to come next, right? So they first announced that The Sims 4 is going to be available on Steam, which is awesome. It makes the game more easily accessible to everybody. Originally, it was only on Origin, so you have to go to Origin, make an Origin account, and play it. But since Steam is probably one of the most predominantly sources to get games, now they're opening the market to a bigger demographic.
Yep.
But what's really big here would be the next season of Apex Legends. So Apex Legends, a second that trailer came out, so 70 million people are jumping on the game and playing it. I know our editor Mike is still playing that game, and he's pretty good at it. There's still that huge audience for it. You see clips everywhere for it. Season 5 is having new events right now. It's going to be Fortune's Favored. That airs on June 26th, so it's probably already started by the time this comes out and it's edited. There's going to have cool new skins, and Apex does a very good job with their skins. I have to give them applause for that. I like their skins probably better than most of the Fortnite skins out there, just because it's a different look.
Yeah, I agree. I think Apex has way better graphics.
Yeah.
They take care of, like, each character is very unique, where sometimes Fortnite, all the characters, even with the customization, kind of get lost in translation. Yeah, no, it looks awesome. I'm not the biggest Apex fan.
Yeah, you're more story player.
I'm more story player, but I've seen a lot of gameplay with it. Looks like balls to the wall, ridiculous.
Yeah.
So yeah, the new characters look awesome, the new skins. And it's good to see that that's a game that they're just kind of building upon, right? It doesn't necessarily need a sequel for every single thing. And they're just kind of adding more chapters and adding different people and adding different modes.
Yeah, it's good to see that they're supporting this game, especially with that fan base, because, like you said, they battle royale. gameplays and styles and that piece of the pie, they're trying to get their carve out, and I think they have successfully carved a niche into it, right? They have those players that play it, even at like the semi-professional level. And the biggest advantage for Apex Legends, people have been people have been asking for it for a long time. Now crossplay. It's available on Steam. You can grab it on your computer. Available crossplay. You can play with your buddies on Xbox, on PlayStation, and really open up the audience to compete on all different levels. So, more interconnectivity, which is always awesome.
Yeah, no, 100%.
So now, Chris, we get to your section of the world. We get to the sports section.
Woo!
They did a very cool trailer for EA, for FIFA and Madden.
EA Sports in the game.
They can't lose the sports contact because that I've known that since I was like 5.
That's more ingrained to me than any show theme song, any any sound. You know exactly what's about to happen every time you hear it.
The graphics look fantastic. I'm sure the gameplay is going to be great. Like, they did very well with the audience. Like, you felt immersed into it. I don't know if that's just a trailer versus the games. I'm not really a sports game player myself. But, I do know that there's a huge audience out there for it, and the fact that it looks better each and every year, I'm sure that immersion gets even better. Now, Chris, I know, and then I'm sure fans of the show know, that you used to play Madden a lot when you were younger. Yeah. Do you think now is the time to pick up Madden for the new consoles, the new seasons?
I do. Madden is something, and now FIFA as well. Even though I've never really played FIFA that much. Not saying it's a bad game; it's a great game. I'm just terrible at FIFA. Right. But Madden, I played Madden since the Sega Genesis days. Back in the mid '90s, where John Madden was on every cover. It wasn't the hottest quarterback.
Oh
in the year.
He was cool. That little old man. I remember
he was
that.
On every year. I think Madden has one of those things where every gen they get this huge uptick. They're able to do more stuff whether it's they have guys now on the field watching these football games and kind of almost recording certain movements. We saw a little bit of it last week with 2K, with the Sony conference, how realistic that looked. One of the really cool things EA is doing, because how their schedule works with sports games, so the new Madden usually comes out in August. So if you buy it for current gen, they will give you a free, code if you get a next gen console to re-download your game for free.
That's awesome.
For next gen.
Know that. That's really nice.
I know they're doing it for Madden. I don't know if they're doing it for FIFA or any of their other platforms. But I know Madden's a big push for that.
Are you going to get the really Madden
cool. Then? I might. It's been a couple years since I got a Madden. I haven't had it probably since 2000, probably 2 years, 2018.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm usually really big on if there's a next gen console, how this has not only upgraded graphics wise, but translated to on the field and certain things. And they've revolutionized a lot, whether it's offense to defense. Usually it's a big offensive type game, right? Everyone's worried about throwing a ball or running a ball. And then they kind of took a turn and focused on defense and setup. So it was way more almost kind of learning.
Realistic,
really realistic, learning coaching styles, learning different things. So it was really fun. So we'll see. And it's not, that following's never going to die out.
No.
So yeah, I can't see Madden or FIFA, not kind of getting even more of a push for next gen, because they've always succeeded, if not excelled, every time there's been a new gen console.
Yeah. So speaking of new gen consoles, towards the end of their conference, they didn't show us any new gen games.
Yeah.
But they did show us that they're working on some stuff, right? So they did a little montage of clips of all the cool things that they're able to do and work on because of the new generation. They had a direct side-by-side comparison of load times in the same game. One's almost instantaneous. One, you're still waiting for that load time. And then, the details, they zoomed in on her face. I don't know if you remember. We were looking at the eyes, just looking around.
Yeah.
Uncanny what they are in the works of doing. And, we saw some fantasy worlds. We saw, these red glowing objects in, tree-looking organic shapes. A building falling. It's getting me really excited for this next gen, the way that game developers are able to take it to the next level. You know, so
yeah, that uncanny valley is getting smaller and smaller with how good like human beings are starting to look. That to me looked almost like a shot from like a future Battlefield or something that they're working on.
Right?
But that facial thing where like he smiles and like they have the different like facial poses with like it's simple stuff, and you've seen it a billion times on like when they're working on androids or robots and stuff, but to have that running in a game engine at that speed, at that power, and have a seamless transition through like everything, it's not easy. But yeah, I would say cool. Like we got to see some screenshots of stuff in development. Nothing was confirmed for next gen. That to me was a bit of a very, very odd, little weird kind of part of this conference, right? We know EA uses E3 every year. They're usually one of the first ones out there on the podium, setting it up. They're one of the first. They talk about their games, they talk about this. But this year felt very, very odd.
To me, it felt like half of like their normal showing, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like they focus on the original IP, talking about that. They focus on the updates they're bringing to the game and cross-platform. Then, obviously Star Wars, which we're going to do in a whole separate thing towards the end. But, like, to me, I think they did this little tease, and they didn't show the next-gen stuff that they're working on. Could be a couple of reasons. One, they're behind. But two, I think they didn't have to right now, right? Because of this unique situation that we found ourselves in with no E3, and these conferences and companies could just announce essentially at their leisure. I think once the game systems come out, and there's some traction there, then I think EA might do another conference or another smaller version of this, talking about, all right, guys, Christmas just happened. You all got your new systems. Now, guess what? Boom. We have all this new stuff that's coming out, or we at least have a couple games, or just one or two. So I think they might do another announcement later. Well, not maybe this year, but early next year. Showing like, hey, now you guys got the consoles. This is what we have.
Maybe. I mean, EA isn't, as big as they are and how much money they get, they're still not as big as like a Sony or a Microsoft just throwing a bunch of games out there and doing a big conference where it's like, here's 60 games in a lineup. Here's a console. Like, here's every trailer and we can talk about all this stuff. I think at this point they're just going to be like, random trailer date drops.
I mean, that could be too.
But I don't know. I felt like you kind of like all these companies know when, like, they know behind the scenes before we do what year a next gen console is going to come, right?
Oh, yeah,
they're in talks with Sony all the time and Microsoft all the time, and Nintendo, but so they know when this is going to happen before us. To me, looking at this conference and not really having something stuck in stone, right? Like, yeah, we know your sports games are going to be next gen, but they also never confirmed it. And they showed trailers, and they never even showed like any part of the gameplay of the trailers.
True.
So to me, that's a little like, oh, okay, so like you're just kind of gonna not say it, but throw this out there so we can see what it looks like in this like very small clip.
I mean, maybe they're behind because of COVID, right? That could be the other thing.
That's 100%.
They weren't allowed to work on certain things, or they couldn't work on it, so they just don't have that, and then they have like a good amount, so they went forward with this instead.
100% a possibility, Rob. You can't take out the COVID factor in any business at this point. But also when your job is computer based and your job is 90% computer based, I would say, and 90% graphics and computer. Obviously, you're not going to be able to do the same thing on a laptop at home that you can with a full setup at your job, right?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it can be done at home, probably at a much slower rate.
It's a possibility, you're thinking.
Possibility.
Okay.
But again, even with COVID, which kind of hit us at the end of March this year, that's still too late to start a game for next gen, right? Like, you gotta... Yeah. They've gotta have started... They would have had to start these maybe 2 to 3 years ago. at least, right, for next gen. Like had a kind of almost like a mini timeline in place for next gen.
Well, they did show us like stuff they're working on for next gen, right?
Yeah.
So those could be the games that they just haven't announced their titles, right? 'Cause
True.
it's still too early in the infancy stage. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just being too optimistic, but that's what I'm thinking.
Maybe. And there's a billion ways to look at this, right? Like, it could just be like, oh, COVID hit, slowed down so much. So we don't have a title that's ready for like launch that we could push for launch. We're gonna wait till like the second quarter when it calms down and kind of rise everybody up again. We don't know, but it was very odd to see in a year where you're getting next gen, most of it not being next gen, right? Like which isn't a bad thing, right? That the focus is still on current gen and they want to finish out the system, but to have kind of almost barely anything, if not nothing, ready for next gen was a little odd to me personally.
So I guess here it's time for the big question. This whole conference as a whole, obviously taking into the fact we do have that new Star Wars game, Squadrons, and everything else that we have here. Looks at the new season, new year, new console, like those sneak peeks. How do you rate this conference? Right? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it average? Like I think it's like to me it was fine. It was fine. I think is a perfect way to put it. I don't think it was great. Or amazing or anything like that. I think it was fine. It wasn't bad by any means. I think it was serviceable. Like it did what it could with the amount it had.
It was classic EA to me. Where like, when 2 years ago when Jedi Fallen Order was in production, they didn't show a logo. It was just like some guy in the stands saying it's happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then next year was basically all Jedi Order. It was very EA. So I'd say for me, it's still below average.
Okay.
In a year where, again, you have next gen coming out, you gotta have something definitive, right? Whether it's a date and it's 2021, or whether it's, here's the title, here's the trailer. Like it was just kind of clips. There was nothing substantial that wasn't, just current gen stuff. So to me, as a whole, it was still a little below average, personally.
Okay. Well, guys, we want to hear what you thought of the EA Play 2020 live conference. Did you think it was below average, average? Did you love everything you've seen? Are you going to get some of the new IPs? Or was all of this just not on your radar and it wasn't really worth your time? We want to hear your reactions. Let us know down in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube, or there's comments on your favorite social media sites. If you're listening, make sure you follow us in Jersey Comic Crew with a K, at all of our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.